Podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at wrestlingwithjohners.com. Hello, we are live and welcome to the latest episode of Wrestling with Johners, episode 236. I've got an amazing guest with us for a Friday night's entertainment, none other than the Alpha Male Iestyn Rees. Iestyn, how are you, my friend? Good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, first of all. Yeah, I'm all good. Had a pretty busy Friday, but I'm been looking forward to this chat. So, I'm happy to be here.
100%. And for anybody watching live at home, if you want to get in touch, if you want to send your questions in to Iestyn, you can do. Just ping them across to us using your chosen device, and we'll do our very best to answer every single question live on air. So, Iestyn, first of all, I've got to ask you about these. So, your YouTube videos, bench pressing questions, Will Ospreay, Mark Haskins, Roy Johnson, Dan Moloney. Doesn't get better than that, but I've checked them all out. It's a fantastic YouTube channel, some great videos up there. First of all, tell us about BBQ, the bench pressing questions, and the series of guests that you've had so far then, my friend.
So I wanted to give wrestling fans a bit of a view behind sort of, not just your usual shoot interview, not just your usual wrestling interview, and sort of make it a little bit different and give them an idea of what we as professionals need to do to be physically able to be able to perform. I was very lucky, to have the caliber of guests that I've already had on there. Obviously, Will, Mark, are hugely world traveled. Dan's worked for all the top promotions and been signed with WWE, and obviously Roy has done a lot of interesting things in the last couple of years in British wrestling, and obviously been signed to WWE previously as well. So for me, it was just an idea that sort of sprung on. I chatted to a few guys, and they were really keen to get involved. So a bit of an informal interview, a little bit about wrestling, a little bit about training, a little bit about diet, and just trying to give people, not try and make it not too boring. I must admit that I'm not the technical genius behind it. My stepson is the filmographer. I think that's the right word, the editor, and puts it all together for me because I can just about write an email when it comes to computers. So that's about where you're lucky you've got me on here with a video, if I'm honest.
Well, I'm impressed and very grateful. But you mentioned off air that you've done 4 videos. You'd like to get more guests on, but it is finding the time with daily pressures, work, family, etc. But are there plans to do more videos? And if you were to have a wish list, top 3 or 4 guests that you'd like to have for series 2, who would you like to have on? So
I've got one in the can with Joel Redman. I didn't want to just release it by itself because I thought it would kind of, I want to try and do them in groups of 4s or 6s. Adam Maxted, Robbie got injured. I was due to do some filming with Robbie, and unfortunately it was just when he injured his ankle, which put him out of action, I think for about a month, 6 weeks. So he's definitely on the list because, he's done a fantastic transformation the last sort of year or so. And for, and he won't mind me saying this, for a smaller guy, he trains incredibly hard, lifts some crazy weights and stuff like that. And then from abroad, I'd love to do something with Billy Gunn. I think, for a guy his age to be in the shape that he's in, and really sort of just try and mix it up and maybe, do something with someone from Japan or someone that's trained in the dojo, so they can take me through a bit of a dojo style workout and stuff like that. So there's lots of different options. I'm definitely keen to do more videos. It's just about fitting everything in around my life and shows and everything else that goes on, basically.
100%. And I'm a little bit jealous of some of the guests you've had on your show, I've got to say. But I have got Mark as my next live guest on Monday. So there we go. That's not too bad.
There you go. You can tick them off against me. But you've got 236 episodes. I've only got 4. So you've definitely got the experience. You've got good numbers of guests in there. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to be seeing a lot of one another over the next 24 hours because you are at a show just around the corner from where I live. I live in Westbury, Wiltshire, and this show here, Immortality Awaits from Immortal Wrestling, will take place tomorrow from the Venom nightclub. Saturday the 23rd of April. The last show they had in November was absolutely crazy. One of the best independent shows I saw all of last year. Some amazing matches. I believe you're making your Immortal Wrestling debut tomorrow. And I know we spoke a little bit off air. You've been kind of bumped up to the main event. And it's a 4-way match for the Immortal Wrestling British Heavyweight Championship. So pretty exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I was due to wrestle Dan Moloney, and that would have been a first match of us going together in singles. We've been involved in triple threats and some other stuff previously, so I was looking forward to that. Unfortunately, Dan is unavailable for the show now, so I've got drafted into the main event, and obviously, that's always a great position to be in. I've been lucky enough to wrestle in main events up and down the country, and I'm going to bring my best tomorrow. And it's a 4-way match, so I'm sure there's going to be lots going on in it, and hopefully I'll come out on top as the new British heavyweight champion.
Wow, it's going to be interesting to see, and it's going to be yourself, Damien, the current champion, Cam Solas from Liverpool, the TNT Extreme Wrestling, Cam Solas, and Kay Jutler. So he kind of rounds off that 4-way match, but it's going to be incredible. 4 amazing talents. And yeah, can't wait to see you again in the flesh and to see you in action. But the last time we did see one another, it was at World Pro Wrestling, wasn't it? In Cheltenham, the Cheltenham Town Hall. Going up against good friend of yours, long-time rival, long-time friend, Joel Redman, in a 15-minute time limit draw. But as I said to you after that match, we had a little bit of a chat after the match. It was a technical masterclass. Of course, you got one of the best in the UK, Europe, dare I say the world, with Joel Redman. Yourself, who's been on the scene, coming up 17 years, not quite 17 years, but you two know each other very, very well. Tell us about that match. Take us back to February when we met in the Cheltenham Town Hall and going up against Joel in that classic.
Yeah, so anytime you're lucky enough to wrestle at Cheltenham Town Hall, it's a real experience. If people are unaware, it's one of the original World of Sport venues. It's probably up there. I would say it's probably one of the top 3-5 prettiest looking venues for wrestling in the country. Huge, great town hall, really historic. When you get to wrestle Joel, I've known Joel probably the last 13, 14 years. We're good friends. He's one of my previous tag team partners that we alluded to before we went live and stuff like that. And obviously he's been there and done that. He's been over to the States, wrestled for WWE. He's been to Japan, wrestled for All Japan. He's wrestled all over Europe. He is, as you said, one of the best talents in the world. And anytime you get to go against someone like of his caliber, and I put myself up there, I don't think it was 100%. It was a one-sided affair. I think we back and forth. We went back and forth. Obviously, it was quite a technical encounter, which, if anyone knows me, isn't necessarily my style. But I'm one of these people. I'm keen to try and keep evolving my my wrestling technique and everything like that. So going one-on-one with Joel and it being sort of a much more technical mat-based match was something I really enjoyed. And the feedback that we got from promoters, fans, yourself and everyone was they all really enjoyed the match. So I think that it's something that I'd be keen to do again somewhere, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it was a card filled with really great highlights, really great matches. The main event was Tajiri versus Jody Fleisch, which was another fantastic match. But I've got to say, wholeheartedly, yourself and Joel Redman stole the show. That was definitely the match of the night. The only downside was it was a 15-minute time limit draw, which is fair, I suppose, a fair outcome. But I did ask you after the match. I said it was a technical masterpiece, but I said, there has to be a rematch somewhere down the line for WPW and maybe a 30-minute time limit draw. And you said that you might need to, I don't know, prep slightly differently or train slightly harder to get yourself ready for that 30 minutes. What would be the difference between doing a 15-minute against Joel compared to a 30-minute?
Well, Joel's a wrestling machine, and anyone that knows Joel, he's the king of cardio. Obviously I've probably got a good 12 kilos on Joel in body weight, so I'm carrying a bit more weight than him. So for me, I'd have to make sure my cardio, I might try and drop a few pounds here and there just to bring myself down. So I'm a little, I still class, I'm a big guy, but I'm still pretty nimble on my feet. But I'd probably want to pick up the cardio a little bit more. But I'd also probably, it'd be one of those matches where you would be looking to potentially slow things down, especially with me being the the bigger of the two of us, maybe, you know, try and put Joel in some holds and stuff like that, and use my size advantage against him, try and tire him out, basically, try and make him try and run his gas tank a little bit low, and then might have to bring out a bit more of the heavy artillery to get the advantage, basically. But, you know, people would say maybe the 30 minutes suits Joel. Maybe it does, but I think maybe it would suit myself, because I feel that, you know, I'm no slouch when it comes to cardio and stuff like that. So I think that I'd definitely be able to keep up with him. I just have to bring him, you know, slow him down a little bit and grind away at him, basically.
There we go. So Matt Jarrett, if you're listening, if you're watching, it'd be great to have a rematch somewhere down the line for sure. But your next match for WPW is this one here, isn't it? We saw Gianni Valletta in action against who did he face?
Eddie Ryan. Eddie
Ryan. A great match that was. That was my first encounter of Gianni Valletta. But he'll be your next opponent in June for their Summer Spectacular. Once again at the Cheltenham Town Hall, and totally different opponent to Joel, as you could tell probably by the match graphic there. He's much more of a brawler. He's a bigger guy, so probably an opponent that might be a similar size and strength to yourself. But
yeah, we're about the similar sort of size. You know, again, he's world traveled. He's wrestling for All Japan. He's wrestled all over Europe and stuff like that. Excuse me. I definitely feel that the brawling style is something I can go toe to toe with him. Again, I feel I might just be slightly bigger than him by a couple of kg. Yeah. So again, I'll be looking to use the physical advantage that I've got with him. But, you know, if it, you know, he uses that chain a little bit, you know, I'm not saying I'm averse to, you know, if he starts putting that into play, you know, might have to give him a taste of his own medicine, basically.
100%. But looking forward to that one. Looking forward to that one for sure. We will continue. I do have to throw a quick sponsors plug to our excellent sponsors, 1310 Apparel. Not only the sponsor to the Wrestling with Johners podcast, but the sponsor to the Johners podcasting network that houses almost 50 YouTube podcast audio wrestling channels from around the world. And if you head over to 1310 Apparel's global store at WrestleMerch Central, you can see their fantastic range of attire, from their hardcore range of shirts, their lucha range of shirts, hoodies, beanies, and the more traditional 1310 apparel and Four Corners t-shirts, beanies, caps, etc. And if you head over to their WrestleMerch Central store or their Big Cartel store, you can see the exclusive 1310 Heidi Katrina shirt, which is out now. And as a viewer and a listener to the Wrestling with Johners podcast, you can take advantage of our great deal with 1310. Head over to their global store at WrestleMerch Central. Simply go to 1310.merch.global, and at checkout, you can save yourself 10% by entering the discount code 1310WMC. Once again, save yourself 10% on all of that lovely swag at WrestleMerch Central on 1310 Apparel. Discount code 1310WMC. It's back to us, Iestyn. There we go. I'm getting good at that. I think hopefully 1310 appreciate that. I certainly appreciate the t-shirt.
Very
I certainly appreciate the t-shirt. Tell us a bit about your wrestling fandom. Take us way back to when kind of wrestling first came into your life. I don't know, as a child, as a teenager.
Yeah,
tell us when.
So my cousin got Sky when I was about 7 years old or so, and what he would do, I was around his house one day, we started watching wrestling. I was like, oh, this is amazing. So he used to video all the episodes of Superstars on a long play tape. Now this is showing my age here. I am a little bit old.
The long play and the short play video recorders, 100%.
So I'd get about 6 hours of wrestling, you know, and it was all, you know, if anyone's familiar with Superstars, it was basically all squashes. You might get one match with a superstar versus a superstar, but then he'd get the pay-per-view. So my first real experience was WrestleMania 7. And the match that really stuck out for me was the Ultimate Warrior versus Randy Savage.
Great match.
I was a huge Ultimate Warrior fan. You know, when you're 7 years old and you see a bloke who looks like a walking superhero. And that match, you know, for all the people that say, oh, Warrior couldn't work, you know, the match was 27 minutes long. When you're 7 years old, it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen, basically. So that's where it all started. I was big fans of the Legion of Doom and the Rockers as well. They were my main sort of guys that I sort of followed and stuff like that. And then kind of I didn't see my cousins as much. As you get older, you don't tend to spend as much time with your cousins and stuff. I didn't get the videos, and I kind of missed wrestling, you know, until it came back the Royal Rumble in 2000 when it was on Channel 4, and that sort of reignited everything, and then been a fan ever since then. And then when I finished university, I was looking around on the internet, and I've been on the wrestling channel before, and I knew there was some wrestling schools in Britain, and I found one in Swindon for FW, and thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. If I'm rubbish or it's rubbish, then I haven't lost anything, and that was sort of 17 and a bit years ago, 17, just under 17 years ago now.
Yeah. So tell us about that, because now you used to be a basketball player, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Was that before pro wrestling?
That was before pro wrestling. So yeah, I picked up basketball when I was about 14 in school. Basically, my dad was a PE teacher, so I had access to all the different sports, and I was always better than him because no one else played it. And then another lad from my school went and started playing for the local club team. He got better than me, so I was like, right, I can't have this. So I then joined the team basically so I could just be better than him. From there, it went on to me playing sort of national league. So when I was 15, I was playing under 15s, under 17s, and under 19s national league basketball for Gloucester. I got selected a year early for the Welsh under 16 team. I broke my wrist 2 weeks before I was supposed to play, so I couldn't play a year young. Then I obviously played for them at under 16s and under 18s. When I moved to Manchester for university, I started playing with the Manchester team, the Manchester Magic. I played for the under 20s in the Division 3 men's. I was actually the captain of the under 20s. We won the National Knockout Cup, basically like the equivalent of the FA Cup for under 20s. And then we got to the semi-finals of the National Championship. We did get cheated out of it. We should have won the double, but it's a long time ago now. I can't really hold a grudge any longer.
No, of course not. But I'm guessing you weren't as kind of muscular or as well built as you were when you were 19, 20. Obviously, you've always had the height. You're about 6'4", 6'5", aren't you? But
yeah, that's it.
I'm guessing
6'3",
you were a bit slighter frame wise.
Yeah, I was probably. I mean, university diet. I mean, if you're aware what you kind of get to eat at university, and the food isn't plentiful, so I was a little bit on the skinnier side. But I've always played sports. I played rugby from when I was 5 years old and everything like that. So I was pretty physical. And that kind of, as much as you can be physical in basketball, I was sort of known as quite a physical player and of being a defender was, especially when I played at Manchester, I played with guys that got on to play professionally all over the world. So my job wasn't really to score. My job was to literally pick up the best player on the other team, whether he was 5'11" or 6'11", and just basically live in his shorts and make his day hard for him. So yeah, I was known as a bit more of a Dennis Rodman, if you're familiar with him. Gotcha. He was kind of my basketball idol, basically. I love playing defense and I love grabbing rebounds.
Yeah. And do you find that, I mean, heading into your wrestling training, having that sporting background, having to be quite nimble on the basketball court and very agile, very quick, good reflexes, did that assist you or give you any advantages moving into your wrestling training, would you say?
I'd say that between that and the rugby, I mean, the physicality from the rugby and just generally being athletic with the basketball was definitely a help. And it definitely meant, because I've been coached from such an early age as well, I felt I was very receptive to the wrestling coaching that I was getting. So, people, I might not have got it perfect each time, but I knew what I was trying to achieve. So that meant that I was pretty quick. So I started training in July, I had my first match in October. So I was pretty quick to go from, first training session to fully in a match and stuff like that. So I feel that it just aided me, because I was used to being coached. I was athletic at the time and I was fit and healthy and strong. And that just all played into, once I'd picked up the basics, it was, I was lucky enough to be off to the races, basically.
Absolutely. And if I've got my timings right here, you started wrestling primarily for FW in Swindon and Wiltshire, and South Wales Championship Wrestling. So those were your two kind of startup groups that kind of helped you, that broke you into the business, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously I trained at 4FW, so it was obviously a natural thing to move on to their shows. They had quite a good working relationship with South Wales Championship Wrestling. So that's where that kind of led into me starting to work in South Wales and stuff like that. Both, at the time, both really, really, they used to pack not massive crowds like it is today, probably 150 in each venue, but, crammed in 150, so it was a great starting point for my career, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And I think within your first year, were you the 4FW heavyweight champion?
Yeah, within about 6 months of starting, basically. And again,
That's a quick progression, isn't it? And clearly demonstrated that you were developing and heading in the right direction, quite early on.
yeah, and I think that, I took my weight training seriously from the get-go. And when I started, there wasn't, I wasn't the size I am now by any stretch of the imagination, but there wasn't many guys like myself who were 210, 215 pounds at the time, but, with a six-pack, with some muscles and stuff like that. And not, there's no knock on the scene. I knew, my heroes were, the Ultimate Warrior, the Legion of Doom, The Rock, people like that. So I thought, to be a wrestler, you got to be big, you got to be muscly. So as soon as I started wrestling, taking wrestling really seriously, I'd already been in the gym and doing a little bit, but it really stepped up from there. So I feel that kind of gave me a little bit of an edge at that time over other potential talents who may have been the same or slightly better than me from a wrestling perspective, but I had that sort of physique that you could put on posters at the time that made me sort of stand out a little bit.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And obviously you were doing the right thing. Within your first year or two, you were branching out, not just, South Wales and not just Swindon with 4FW. You were all over the place. Kent with IPW UK, down in Devon with DWA, Future Shock, and so many more. You're really branching out quite soon on into your career. A bit of a whirlwind start to your career, but also a great learning experience as well, kind of seeing different parts of the UK, wrestling different talent, and being able to perform for different promotions.
And that was always the goal. When I got into the wrestling business, I knew that the scene was starting to, I wouldn't say it caught fire, but it was starting to pick up a bit of steam and stuff. And I wanted to just wrestle as many places as I can, be seen in front of as many different fans as I could, wrestle as many different opponents as I can. So between all the companies you mentioned and starting to do a bit for All-Star Wrestling as well on the camps and town hall shows as well, it was just learning those slightly different styles and the different crowds and the different ways to interact with them and stuff like that. So it was, that first 2 years, I just tried to wrestle as many places as I could to just get as much information going as possible, basically, and progress as much as possible.
Yeah. And who were you coming up through the business with at a time? Did you have your support mechanism, the people that you were kind of traveling the road with week in, week out, and kind of your buddies on the road? Who were your kind of main support system back in the early couple of years?
So I had a couple of sort of, they probably don't like the term mentors, but Shah Samuels and Terry Fraser, the Cartel, they kind of latched onto me because I don't think they'd seen many people with muscles before. So they were very influential. they beat me up a lot in my first lot of matches and stuff like that. But I got to work quite closely with them. Martin Stone, Danny Birch from WWE, Dave Mastiff. Those guys really sort of, I was sort of almost blooded against them in 4FW. They were like, right, we want to see what this kid can do. Let's get him in against these. They were the top sort of independent pros at the time. And that really gave me a great start. And then traveling up and down the road, used to have a little sort of car team that was myself, Gilligan Gordon, manager and wrestler, Joel Redman, Matt Lomax. That was the main sort of, car that went up and down the country and all over the place. And they're still my friends to this day. So, lots of bonds and stuff sort of built in those early years, basically.
Absolutely. Al Snow. Now, you had a few matches with Al Snow, I think around maybe 2008. I think you had maybe 3 or 4 matches with him. And I think
three singles and a tag. Yeah.
That's right. And I think the IPW UK Championship was also involved in 1 or 2 of those matches. But how did when you were first told that you're going to be facing Al Snow next week, kind of what's your reaction, especially being relatively new in the business, a few years in, maybe having to be put in a championship match against a WWA wrestling legend, dare I say it? You must have been kind of excited but slightly nervous. But then you had a good little rivalry with him as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was super excited. The first match was eye-opening and it was pretty dreadful, and I got absolutely panned. And then Al sat me down for about 3.5 hours after the match, and it was great to sit under the learning tree. And then I was lucky enough that I think that was say like in the summer, and then he came back over in the October, November, and we ended up spending a week with him, and I wrestled him in 2 further singles and a tag match, and I think I showed him that I'd improved in that time from the first match, which is pretty dreadful, if I'm honest, to that point. I mean, it was another situation. I was the IPW champ. I had a great gimmick, and we had a group around me of me, Haskins, Ricky Hype, and Joel Redman with Gilligan Gordon as the manager. That was probably the most high-profile independent at the time, and maybe I was positioned as a champion, but maybe my skills weren't quite there. But that was a real learning curve for me, and I felt that was almost like the springboard for me to try and progress onto that next level and really sort of work even harder and go from there. So yeah, the first one was an eye opener, but I was lucky enough that Al, took the time to sit down myself and really sort of, 3.5 hours, sat there under the learning tree was fantastic. And then that I definitely showed him that I paid attention and put in practice the things that he'd said in the next couple of matches and stuff like that.
Yeah. But I mean, when you're put under that amount of pressure against an internationally renowned superstar, it's not always going to go swimmingly first time. And like I say, it was great that he sat you down and kind of gave you that feedback afterwards and obviously built your confidence back up. And then matches 2, 3, and 4 were a success, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you've got to have a bad match to get better.
Yeah.
The world isn't, it isn't just like 5-star match, yeah. And everyone, sometimes you need a crap one in there to ground you again. But I think that I've always been of the thought that if you can learn something from a match, then whether it's a bad match or a good match, if you can come away and learn something and progress, you're going to be in a good place there, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've had someone get in touch already. I believe it's Jay White, the promoter of Immortal Wrestling, although it'll come up Facebook user. But Jay asks, does Iestyn think that he'll walk away with the championship tomorrow, with the title, the Immortal Wrestling title tomorrow? So obviously you're going to big yourself up, you're going to be confident, but kind of give us your thoughts on kind of whether you're going to walk away with the gold tomorrow.
I mean, I walk into every championship match aiming to walk away with the gold. Definitely. Sorry, I'm just adjusting this light. So I was getting a bit dark here on the natural light. There we go. The match kind of favours me because you don't have to pin the champ to win the match. It's a 4-way match. There's probably going to be a high degree of brawling. There's definitely some brawlers in there. So I think that that type of match is definitely in my favour. So I'm going in there. Got to be in it to win it, so I've got as good a chance of any, and maybe just a little bit better chance.
Absolutely, a good attitude to have, but and I think you'll be one of the crowd favourites in the Venom nightclub tomorrow in Westbury at Immortality Awaits. So my next question is about tag teams, and we spoke a bit off air. You've had a number of tag team partners.
They all seem to be more successful than me. I don't know whether that says anything about me or about them, basically.
But they're not the alpha male, though, are they? I mean, come on.
No, perhaps they sat under my learning tree and they've taken all that I've done and they've gone off and used it elsewhere.
I'm going to reel off some names here. So we mentioned Joel Redman, part of the agenda, I think, back in 2010. And more recently, you've teamed with Joel as the Thrillers, if I'm not mistaken. The Sexy Beasts with Styx. With Charlie Sterling, they're known as Charlie Garrett. You were the Alpha Males. In ICW, the Marauders, you were part of that faction or that team. But lots of really, really great names there. Some fun memories as well. I
also tagged with Bram for about 9 months in ICW as well, and had some. I would go that they were pretty brutal matches. I would suggest if you get a chance to check out the Shook's House Party or the Fear and Loathing match. They're us versus the Kinky Party. They're two hard hitting brawls, definitely.
Good point. I forgot to mention Bram, but any particular fun stories or highlights of tagging with those individuals?
I've got a funny one about Charlie. So we're at Future Pro Wrestling. Now, Charlie's a bit younger than me, and he's always been known as a bit of a div. So we're both involved in the Rumble, and Charlie can't work out the Rumble order the way it's been. It wasn't written the most clearest, let's say that. But Charlie was like reading it, and he was like, "Is this Rumble a rib? Is this Rumble a rib?" And I popped everyone in the dressing room by saying, "Charlie, you're the rib. Let's just leave it up to the promoters and stuff like that." But no, I mean, I've been lucky enough to tag with some great guys, and work against some great top tag teams as well. Lots to do with Will Ospreay and both Tom Dawkins, obviously Cara Noir when he first started out, and Paul Robertson as well. And just get to travel up and down the country. And when they're all good friends. When you get to go to work and spend time with your mates and have a good time, it just makes the whole experience that much better.
Absolutely. And what about this guy here then? Kip Sabian.
Yeah, so
Alpha Bad.
probably the most famous tag team I'm in. If you look at
Of course.
viewers who saw us wrestle, shall we say. Kip's fantastic. We when I got approached to do the WOS stuff for ITV, after obviously agreeing to be part of the process, they came to us with the creative. They wanted to put me and Kip together. I jumped on the phone to Kip. We started chatting, and we kind of knew the dynamic that we wanted to play: little brother, big brother, Shawn Michaels, Diesel type of, and yeah, it just worked really well. And obviously we had instant chemistry. It sort of showed on the TV and especially on the live tour and stuff as well. It's just a shame that the project the wheels were almost cut off from underneath it before it really got going, because I do think it had potential. I'll be honest, it was edited poorly because it was edited by someone that wasn't a wrestling fan, wasn't even a sports editor.
Yeah.
We spoke to the cameramen at length beforehand because they were all new to filming wrestling, and we tried to sort of explain that, we're trying to get across the drama in these matches and our characters and stuff like that. And unfortunately, and again, it comes to a lot of my stuff. There was a lot of stuff where I was stalking opponents and stuff like that. That was meant to build tension. Well, because that wasn't moves. It was kind of cut out of the edit. I'm sure if people saw the unedited match, or not unedited, but if they saw
if they were there,
the match edited to what it should be,
of course,
it would have hooked in a lot more viewers. I mean, it was successful. It got messed around a bit with ITV, and then sort of Series 2, unfortunately, the money men behind it always wanted it to be on ITV. We did have some offers from other channels, and I think if we'd have taken one of those offers with a fairly big, not terrestrial sort of, not digital channel, like cable channel, let's go that far. I'm again showing my age. So something that was available for everyone to see, Freeview channel, that's what I was looking for. That would have been a great audience for it. Unfortunately, the money men behind it, they just had their ideas that they wanted it on ITV. And I think TV moves so quickly. This is what people don't realize. Once that project's over, they're worrying about the next project and the next quarter and the next quarter, and it just didn't ever resurface back around, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I mean, when you were there, because I think it was 3 days of tapings in Norwich, wasn't it? The 10 episodes were filmed in 3 days. And so, I mean, coming out of them 3 days, were you optimistic? Were you kind of happy with how it went? Obviously not seeing the finished product until it aired in the summer. I think it was August. But kind of, were you optimistic, and were you optimistic of a second season based on how them 3 days had gone?
Yeah, I mean, those 3 days and the whole roster, the boys and girls, everyone involved was absolutely fantastic. Everyone, left
an amazing roster.
Yeah, left there all in that ring. We tried to make it the best TV product that we could. And as I said, it was unfortunate what the edit did to some of the matches, because, we were in there and we absolutely gave our all in every single match. No one took a match off. No one took a night off. It was pretty intense, the filming schedule. We do a matinee and an evening show each day, and that would be split into the one live show would be split into 2 hours of TV and stuff like that. And everyone was super, super positive coming out the back of it. We really did think that this was going to be something big. The live tour got a lot of stick off the back of it, because I think the promoters had used to been working with, say, Strictly Come Dancing, and because that's such a big brand, when the tickets go on sale, 90% are sold like that. This was a new brand, and everyone knows about wrestling. You get a big surge, and then it will sort of trickle in. But we sold out every venue bar one on the tour, and we oversold Blackpool. There was 1,500 people in Blackpool, which is, I think, as many people as WWE pulled in or close to for the takeover shows there. Obviously. So it definitely had an audience. It still gets mentioned to me now when I meet fans and stuff like that. It's just unfortunate. It just didn't work out from a business perspective, because the talent was there. We had a TV-ready roster, as I'm sure you can attest to. It was a roster that could be, at the time, I think it held its own and was 50-50 with WWE, NXT UK, and go from there. But it just
it drew over 1 million on episode 1. I think episode 2
and that's my claim to fame. 1 million people to see me wrestle. So it definitely had the buzz about it. We did get moved around with the schedule and stuff like that, and I think that ITV didn't quite know who they were pitching it for, what time would be best. And then when you're starting off in, I think it was the 5 till 6 or 5:30 till 6:30, if I remember correctly,
yes.
They want 750 million plus kind of viewers.
Yeah.
And then I think our target, even when they moved us back to 3 o'clock, they still were expecting those sort of numbers, which isn't the same thing. If you look at the demographics, and I'm not going to bore people with this, but those afternoon ones, people aren't around, they're out playing football, watching football, doing stuff, shopping, doing whatever. So you're only, but they were still expecting us to have these 5, 6 o'clock numbers, and it just didn't work out. So it was a bit mismanaged, but I think it had potential.
It certainly did. And like I say, as a wrestling fan, I enjoyed episode 1, but it was the constant cuts, the edits. You know, you didn't really see many of the impacts, shall we say. And I think if you're a family watching around your, TV at home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to love that sort of thing. Because it was, I think, they always designed it with a family audience in mind.
Oh yeah,
to have like the reboot of Gladiators or something, but it wasn't necessarily designed for a true wrestling fan, in my opinion.
No, I think it could have been, if it had been better edited, you'd have had that kiddie audience or nailed down, and you'd have had the wrestling fans as well. And the wrestling fans would have given it more traction on social media. I think there would have been a lot more social media engagement with it, because I had family and friends, and they all contacted me, text me, inbox me. Oh, it's amazing. The kids loved it. They can't wait for it to come around. They're watching it on repeat. But they're not the kind of people that are going to be vocal on social media, and that then draws the attention. So it was just in the editing, honestly. And in hindsight, they should have just either stuck with someone that had edited wrestling before, or at least someone that had sport as their main sort of job, with someone that knew wrestling in there with them. They just left it to the guy. His claim to fame was he edited the royal wedding. I mean, that's not,
Well, I know the royal family are renowned for having their fights, but it's not quite the same as pro wrestling, is it? But I mean, just one last thing on WOS, as far as I'm concerned. I always thought, yes, they should have the kind of edited version for the daytime audience on a Saturday afternoon. And then they should have had an unedited version, say at 9, 10 o'clock in the evening, even if it was on like ITV2.
It used to get great viewing. The 12 o'clock, the midnight, when people come back in from the pub.
Absolutely.
It did great numbers there. And I think, like you said, if it had been slightly edited differently, with a bit more towards the sort of wrestling as opposed to the sort of kiddie entertainment, I think it could have captured both demographics really well there.
Absolutely. Sticking with tag teams for now, you are the current, or one half of the current PCW Tag Team Champions with Will Kroos. We had Will on the podcast a few months ago, an awesome guy, fantastic wrestler. Now, the two of you, big guys, strong guys. Your styles mesh very well in the ring as well, though. Tell us about your team with Will and your kind of relationship as a tag team, and how it works in the ring as well.
So obviously, PCW was the last show that I worked. It literally was the one on that weekend where everything shut down. I think on the Tuesday was the show that was on the weekend before that. So it was the last show I worked. And then, obviously wrestling was away for 18 months, whatever it was. Yeah. And basically all the fans of PCW, I was a good guy at the time, and I was trying to please all the fans. Well, none of them said they missed me. So when that tag team title gauntlet match came up, I went to Will Kroos, who just won the heavyweight title the show before.
Yeah.
It was the first main show back. And I said, well, let's go in here. We got an easy win here with the biggest two dudes on the roster. And went from there. And I think that, for myself, I've got some stuff that I can definitely pass on to Will from an experience point of view. And obviously he's a fantastic talent, for a big guy, he's incredibly agile, and just an easy tag team to be a part of, basically. I think we, as you said, we mesh really well.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things, instant, easy chemistry, basically.
100%. And one final thing on tag team wrestling. I'm a huge fan of tag team wrestling. There's so much to be gained as a fan from watching a tag team match in terms of the dynamics, the action, the storytelling, the drama. Why do you love tag team wrestling so much? And why do you like it differently to being a singles competitor as well?
So I think you can really pull at people's heartstrings in a tag team match. I think that you can really amp up the drama, because if you're doing it right, when that guy makes the tag to his partner and his partner unleashes some hell on the opponents, everyone should be like wanting to be that guy and be in the ring, because, whether you're on either side of the coin, you're there for your tag team partner, you work as a team. But I really feel that you can really tell a good story. You can really, amp up the crowd. And I think that, tag team wrestling, unfortunately, in WWE seems to be very much a backseat. I think Vince hates tag team because it's so wrestling.
Yeah.
He owns a wrestling company, but that's his prerogative. I think some of the best stories that have ever been told in the ring have been in tag team matches. And I think that if you can more tag team matches should be main events on shows, and not even just gimmick matches, TLCs and stuff like that. I do honestly believe that you should really, your heavyweight title and your tag team title can be, battling each other for the most prestigious sort of position on the card, and getting the plaudits basically. So it is sometimes frustrating that, we'll just chuck this guy and that guy and that guy and that guy together, all tag team match. I'd rather see more structured, permanent sort of tag teams working around the scene and being given a platform to really, really be at the top of the cards and stuff like that.
Absolutely. I've got to say, though, tag team wrestling on the independent scene, the British wrestling scene in particular, is excellent. And I've seen a ton of tremendous tag teams and tag team matches over the last 12 months since wrestling came back. But I just want to stick with PCW for a bit, because PCW since 2015, it's been a big and very important part of your career, a company that's very, very close to your heart. Tell us a bit about PCW and what it means to you, because you've had a lot of tremendous matches and a lot of great opportunities there as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, PCW was one of the places it really caught fire, 2013-14. I was lucky to be brought in 2015, and it's just been a company where I've been able to work a lot of high profile British guys, and also obviously high profile imports and stuff like that. Obviously, I've won the tag team titles there. I've won the heavyweight title there. I've been in front of huge crowds. Some of the biggest crowds I've been in front of have been wrestling for PCW. It's one of those companies, I think, that, its kind of business model was kind of a little bit disruptive when WCPW came in, and they obviously had a bigger platform and more money. But I feel that now the product they put on is still very, very entertaining, and it's something that I'm trying to help, regrow the brand and regrow, the wrestling there and go from there, basically.
Absolutely. And I know we spoke a little bit off air about it, but I think as far as the record books are concerned, you are still the longest reigning PCW heavyweight champion, just shy of 400 days, well over 1 calendar year. A pretty awesome accomplishment to be proud of there.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely goes down as one of my career highlights. And I was lucky enough to wrestle a lot of top names and beat a lot of top names when I was the champion and stuff like that. So for me, it was always something, if you look at the names of the people that have won that belt, it's the who's who of British wrestling, and some international names that have gone on to do huge things or come off the back of doing huge things previously. Apollo Crews, Uhaa Nation, Chris Masters, Lionheart, Doug Williams, Shah Samuels, Noam Dar. The list goes on of, and it's an honor to be among that list, but it's also quite a nice achievement to be the guy who's been the heavyweight champion for the longest time.
Absolutely. And one name you neglected to mention was this guy here. What about Tyson? You can't forget Tyson T-Bone.
I think me and T-Bone have had more matches against each other. I think we're definitely each other's number one opponent when it comes to matches. And I think T-Bone will probably tell you this, that he comes out on the losing end more times than he comes out on the winning end. Let's say that.
But you had a great series of matches with T-Bone. I think in 2017 was the year where you and Tyson T-Bone had some tremendous matches over the PCW Heavyweight Championship. I know getting towards the end of that year, he took the title off of you on a pay-per-view PCW show. And then you had a street fight to tail off, to end off 2017, didn't you, at the Blackpool Tower? But a great rivalry, a great opponent of yours. I'm sure he's a great friend. But thinking back to that feud, what do you remember about your time at PCW with Tyson T-Bone?
Yeah, I mean, Wrestling Tyson, he is one of my oldest friends, which I'm in the business and out of the business as well. It just means we beat each other up a lot. And we're both big guys. We're both heavyweights. I wouldn't say our matches were technical masterclasses. There was a lot of moves to the ring apron, the second hardest part of the ring, as I like to tell people, because the ring post is definitely the hardest.
True.
Brawling through the crowd, falling downstairs, chucking each other off balconies,
they
all
were
kinds
more
of
physical masterclasses, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. You've probably seen that famous clip from Big E, where he's like, "Big meaty men slapping meat." That's what I'm all about when he gets in there with T-Bone. It's big meaty men slapping meat and knocking into each other hard, basically.
Oh, 100%. And I think it was 2017 when you last faced T-Bone, but I think you've wrestled him more recently, haven't you, for Southwest Wrestling, probably a couple of months ago. But how have things changed in them 4 years? Was it good to get back in the ring with T-Bone after that absence?
It didn't see the light of day because obviously where T-Bone's contract lies and stuff like that. So they released the rest of the show on YouTube, but you didn't get to see us, unfortunately. But not much has changed. We spent about 20 minutes back and forth, beating each up, throwing each other through the spectators' chairs, and both left a bit bruised and a bit battered afterwards. I came out on top, only just, but yeah, it's another win for myself in the record books, and T-Bone won't mind me saying that.
Absolutely. Before we rush ahead, I just want to read out a list of, I mentioned earlier, or you may have mentioned, about the international talent and the imports, whether it be for PCW or whomever. You always seem to get paired up with them. So you've got the likes of, you've had matches with Too Cool, Red Dragon, War Machine, X-Pac, Chris Masters, Apollo Crews, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, Keith Lee, and Nick Aldis for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Rhino, many. I've got some
Bobby
pictures.
Lashley.
Yeah, tell us about some of them names, because you must have had a lot of fun, but a great experience to be thrown in the ring with some of them internationally renowned talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Enough. It's one of those things, and again, being a bigger heavyweight, obviously, the aesthetic that can be found when putting me against the import names, it wouldn't look out of place being on a WWE, AEW, wherever the show is and stuff like that. For myself, I always felt that the matches just aided me being a better wrestler, but also I was in there with, they might have had the contracts and the positions that they had, but I don't feel there was much difference in what we brought to the matches and stuff like that. I felt that it was very much, a 50-50 match, each way. And it's things like, little bits in matches where, Bobby Lashley comes to give me a shoulder tackle and I stand there. I think most of the time people are expecting him to smash through people. We were as big as each other. He might have look a bit big. He's got a big chest, but no calves. I've got big calves and not the greatest chest. So,
you've probably got a few inches on Bobby Lashley as well, haven't you? Probably it's a bit of a height difference, I'm guessing.
Yeah, a little bit taller, a couple of inches or so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's just an honor whenever a promoter gives you the opportunity to work someone that's main event in WrestleMania or been high profile all over the world. It's an honor. I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I've had, and hopefully there'll be some more coming in the future as well. It's something that I'm always grateful of the opportunity and go out there and try and give it my all, basically.
Absolutely. I'm going to throw up another picture. What's this all about? So you've got obviously Kevin Nash there, all of 7 foot of him, and yourself, almost toe to toe. But that's
not quite. It's the first time someone's towered over me that much. So
tell us about
this.
That
was Fear and Loathing. The Marauders, Mike Bird, Wild Boar were wrestling Polar Promotions. We were the tag team they were the tag team champions. I came down to the ring to cheer them on. I got ousted from ringside, and then after the Polar Promotions won the tag team titles, unfortunately, I came down, beat the both of them up. Unfortunately, Kevin Nash was the special enforcer, the GM for the night. He took a bit of umbrage to this. I believe that's the right word. Yeah. He came down, and I wasn't going to back down from him. He might have been the bigger dog in the fight, and on this occasion, he might have got the better of me. But the next time might not have been different. it's just one of those things. And
Was there any
again,
physicality between the two of you?
yeah, he beat me up a bit, to be honest.
All right.
It's probably my fault. I did throw the first punch, so just
Awesome.
to be in there with one of those guys, he is a real legend of the business, and stand toe to toe with him. I've got two wrestling pictures. That's what up in the house. That's one of them. The other one is myself versus Drew from Drew's first match ever in his hometown that I was booked in by Pro Wrestling League by Lionheart. So they're two memories that will stay with me, forever. Yeah. So that was the rematch. It was but it was to be his first match. But I think it was about 1,000 people in a sports hall. And when I say in a sports hall, Adrian Lionheart, he spent a hell of a lot of money on production. This wasn't just an independent show. We had 3 video screens, a huge lighting rig. Everyone had custom made entrance videos and everything like that. It was really something. So I was lucky enough again to be chosen as the guy that faced Drew in his hometown. First time he'd ever wrestled there when he was coming off the back of being in WWE. And this was Drew, the wild man that kind of took over the world, everywhere in the world for that 2 or 3 years where he's away from WWE. So it was a hell of a scrap.
Oh, I bet it was. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have had a bit of a WWE experience, haven't you? Now, trawling through the record books and all the various websites, you had a couple of dark matches on a NXT UK taping back in January 2020. But was that part of a tryout, or give us a bit of context?
Yeah, so I tried out for WWE on a few occasions. I tried out way back when in 2009, 2010 when I was very early on the scene. I got scouted by the late great Drew McDonald, and he saw me on a show for All Star and got me involved in the tryout. Nothing obviously came of it at the time, and then I kind of, WWE from that they had the big signing of 7 where they signed Drew and Sheamus. And about 5 or 6 other guys and girls at that time. Then they signed Martin, Ollie, Rampage Brown, and Tom Latimer in one go. And then Joel was the only person to get signed between then and when I went for my before they started the UK tournament. Then I went for a tryout in 2017, got some good feedback, went back again November 2019, got invited to the PC for a week's training camp in January, and then I got selected to do those 2 dark matches prior to the TV tapings in York. So it was a fantastic experience. Maybe if the pandemic hadn't come along at that time, I would have had more opportunities and potentially would have earned myself a contract. I think that the pandemic just came at the wrong time with me, and then Vince decided he didn't want anyone over the age of, I think, about 17 to get signed. So I was well north of the cutoff point, unfortunately. So I think that ship sailed now for me now, unfortunately. But if I was given the opportunity to go in and do some more dark work or whatever with the TV tapings, I'd love the opportunity.
The thing is, I don't think age should be a barrier in pro wrestling. When you look at, some of their biggest names in history of being, 30, 40, dare I say it, heading into their 50s and still being
you don't come into your peak until you're in your late 30s, if I'm honest.
I'd say that 10 years of seasoning before you're kind of able to even kind of step into that sort of picture, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. If you look at the main roster for WWE, yes, they've got some smaller guys on there, but you need time for your body to mature as well. It was one of the things that I spoke about with Will, and obviously I've been pretty influential in, helping Will Ospreay put on the necessary size to move from the junior heavyweights to the heavyweight scene, and it was something that he identified that he needed to be bigger to be taken serious. And I do think a lot of people neglect that. There's some fantastic wrestlers out there, but A, for longevity of career, and B, to allow yourself to move to that next level, there's got to be an element of the physical conditioning in there, and not necessarily being like a bodybuilder, but being that bit better conditioned, that stronger, your body can take the rigors of being on the road and these high profile matches a bit better.
Absolutely. I think you covered this in an earlier question, but obviously you started, you was a basketball player, then you entered the world of pro wrestling. When did the physique start to kind of manifest itself? Was it fairly early on? You said you kind of hit the weights fairly early on into your wrestling career, but when do you think you kind of got the physique that you was happy with?
So you're never happy with your physique, John.
Well, I try every day, but it's not happening for me.
Yeah, I started weight training. I'd taken my weight training seriously, but then it really stepped up a gear when I started wrestling. I'll probably say that, and this will just go to show what can be achieved. So I think when I started wrestling, I was 196 pounds, so 14 stone. The biggest I've been and wrestled is 260 pounds. So, it takes time to put on that kind of tissue. That's 14 years of training, 14 years of dieting, and trying to be in as best physical shape as I can. You got some nice pictures of me there looking super lean and ripped up. You can't be like that all year round. You have to put on a bit of size, cut back a little bit of body fat and stuff like that. So it's an ever evolving process. And again, I'm 39 years old now. I've picked up my fair share of injuries. I've been under the surgeon's knife 4 times twice on either knee and stuff like that. So you have to adapt. I've got injuries. I've got stuff I have to work around and train around and stuff like that. But it's definitely something that, I've always stressed throughout my whole career. I've always wanted to be the poster boy or the bloke you can put on a poster and I'm going to catch people's eye from a distance and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say I'm just a bodyguard. I'd say my work is up there, with anyone that's, wrestling a heavyweight style, but I've always prided myself on coming in and looking the part as much as being the part.
Absolutely. And a smooth transition into competitive bodybuilding then. So tell us about that transition into competitive bodybuilding. And now, as we've just discussed, you've always had an incredible look, a great physique, but when did you decide to take it to that next level and go pro bodybuilding?
Oh, let's not go pro. I'm not a pro.
Whoa. Well, competitive building then.
So there's a wrestler in Wales, Kid Cymru, Gethin. He had done a couple of bodybuilding shows, and it's something I'd always had an interest in. I think when you get heavily into the gym, you start picking up the bodybuilding magazines, the Muscle and Fitness, the Muscle and the Flex magazine. So it's always something I've always had an eye and wanted to give a go, and he kind of cajoled me into it. The show date kind of worked in with wrestling shows and everything like that. So I did my first competition 3 years ago. I won the first time as on the novice class. It was kind of combined into one, and then the pandemic hit. I didn't really train for about 3 or 4 months, and I needed something to get me back in shape and have a focus. So I chose that I was going to do a show in October 2020. I hired a coach with about 7 weeks to go, who's a former Olympian, one of the top pros in Britain at the time. And he got me super peeled. I was down, and this is where I'm going to shock people. So I was 212 pounds when I was on stage, which is the smallest I've been. I was 96 kg, which is the smallest I've been for probably about 12 years. But I didn't place in that show. I was super disappointed about it. So we put in place the plan. I worked for a whole off season, again, through the pandemic and as wrestling sort of restarted and stuff like that, I was working through. And then I competed in 3 shows October last year. I won the Class 1 of the Southwest Championship, which qualified me for Class 1. There's all different height classes. So Class 1's the tallest. So I won the Southwest regional, which qualified me for the British finals. I came 4th in the British finals. I also competed in another show in a super heavyweight category where I placed 3rd. So the big thing for me wasn't about the placings, was that I put a better performance in than I had done a year previously. And I actually gained 44 pounds. So when you put that in old money, that's over 3 stone, 3.5 stone in, or no, 3.25 stone, sorry, in a year. So I'd really added a lot of extra size and stuff, and my conditioning was better. So I was, that was all I wanted to achieve, and to get the accolades and the awards that I've got were just the icing on the cake, basically.
Absolutely. And kind of, were you competing in the ring whilst you were training with your bodybuilding? Because obviously the preparation for the two must be completely different. being a bodybuilder, you have to lean down. There's not so much body mass there that you would typically be associated with as a pro wrestler. So the preparation's different. Can you do the two together?
So I took all of October away from bookings because that's when the competitions were. I had my last match out in Austria in the middle of September last year. Because the pandemic I think shows kind of started maybe about the July, August time. And I was just started my diet at that point, and I didn't want to do too many shows, so I didn't want to risk getting injured. So I kind of picked and chose my shows. So I did PCW, one out in Austria, and one other show. And then I took October, from middle of September to the end of October off to focus on the shows. And because I'm down then at my, 3, 4, 5% body fat, it's not something that you want to be then, my energy's low. I don't want to be in the ring, A, for my own safety, but B, for everyone else that I'm wrestling and stuff as well. So I wanted to make sure that I gave my all to that. And then I took a week or two off after the final show just to let my body recover. And then I kind of restarted the wrestling sort of, a couple of weeks after the shows and stuff like that.
Yeah. So just trying to kind of put the two together in my head, especially with the body mass and having to lean down. And
my biggest in the off season, I was cruising around over 280 pounds during the day and stuff like that. So
right.
Luckily, there was. I wouldn't have looked too good in my trunks at that point. But that's the whole point of I was lucky enough the pandemic kind of and the wrestling scene not being around kind of gave me the opportunity to really focus my all on the bodybuilding.
Yeah. And plans for future shows? Are you looking to start the bodybuilding or to compete in more shows in the future?
I kind of came to the decision recently that because of family life and my son he's going to turn 4 in a couple of months and stuff like that, it really does take a lot of time. You have to be so driven and so focused. Unfortunately, it kind of means that everything else is kind of pushed to the sides and stuff like that. And never say never, but I think it'll probably be something that it'll have to wait a good number of years if it ever happens again, just because I've got so many other commitments. I want to be there for my family. There's still stuff I want to achieve in wrestling and stuff as well. It kind of was the perfect sort of mix of the pandemic and everything that allowed me to do those things. It's never say never, but I think at the moment for myself, it's just, I want to focus on being a good dad as well. Obviously, wrestling takes me away some weekends now. Like I have cut back my schedules to spend more time with my family, and that's something I've made a conscious effort to do. And unfortunately, the bodybuilding, when you get into that prep and it's 16, I was dieting for 18 weeks, and this is
all consuming. I'm sure it just kind of takes over your life.
It is. I have to eat at certain times. I have to eat certain food. Some weeks I wouldn't even get a meal off, so I wouldn't even be able to sit down with the family.
Yeah.
At any point, because my meal times always hit different to theirs. We went away on 2 holidays, one to Scotland, one to Cornwall. I was sat on the beach eating chicken and rice out of a Tupperware container whilst everyone else is eating ice creams. I'm having to get up and go for an hour walk in the morning, a 45-minute walk in the evening, and find a gym whilst I'm on holiday to train at. It's not fair on my family more than anything else. That was what the kind of decision that I came to and stuff like that. I've been very lucky that my family supported me and everything through it. But, I'm not going to turn pro in it. It's not going to be my career. Therefore, I've got to think sensibly, and it is just all encompassing, basically.
Well, tell me about your online training, being an online coach.
Sure. So it's something.
So tell us how that got started and kind of what sort of services you provide.
Sure. So obviously, I've always been keen into the gym, and most people now know that it's much more than anyone could go in and train hard, but to achieve the sort of physique or any improvements, whether it's getting lean, adding muscle, getting stronger, doing whatever, your diet is the biggest thing. So I bought some resources, some ready-made plans and some books and stuff like that. I started doing some research, and then I'd helped a couple of people out here and there. I'll try this training program, try this diet plan, try this, try that. And then I really got chatting with Gabe Kidd when we were doing the World of Sport stuff, particularly on the tour. And he obviously, he was looking to really take his physique and his wrestling to the next level. And I said, look, free of charge, let me coach you, let me do all this stuff with you. So it started off with Gabe, and then I kind of sort of, with working with my coach, initially getting the Kid Cymru, and then with Lee Powell, the professional bodybuilder, it kind of gave me a bit more insight. I did a bit more learning. I did some nutrition courses, and I kind of felt that I was in the position where I could really start sort of helping more people and you know, giving people the keys to achieve whatever their goal is in fitness, whether it's losing body fat, gaining muscle, whatever they want to do. Obviously, the majority of my clients are pro wrestlers or wrestling trainees. I do work with people that aren't, you know, I'll work with anyone, you know, whatever your goals are, whatever anything is, I'm keen to work with you. Obviously, the wrestling is something that I have more of a fan base in, and obviously, you know, lots of wrestling, you know, wrestlers know about me and what I can provide and stuff like that. But, you know, it's something I really enjoy. I've got a real passion for it. I want to help people achieve, you know, and I think there was a big misconception of me years ago that I wanted every wrestler to look like a bodybuilder. It was never the case. I always say that a wrestling roster should look like a rugby team. You should have big, strong, fit guys, some tall guys, some ripped up, muscly guys, some small, agile guys, you know.
Yeah.
Wrestling's a three-ring circus. I don't know if you've ever heard that. So you probably heard it from some of your guests before. You know, if some people like the jugglers, they're going to be really into the jugglers. If some people like the clowns, they're going to be really into the clowns. If some people like the trapeze artists, they're going to be really into trapeze artists. But your roster, a good roster, has to encompass all of that. But I always, you know, we're athletes. You should look like an athlete. Not every athlete looks the same. A prop forward or a shot putter doesn't look the same as a 100-meter sprinter or a pole vaulter or a high jumper or a swimmer. They're all athletes, all of those, but their physique is manifested to what they need to achieve in their chosen sport. So wrestling, as we talked about, you can be technical, you can be high flying, you can be a brawler, you can be a powerhouse. Therefore, your physique should be aiming to be how you wrestle, if that makes sense.
100%. And if any of my listeners or viewers want to get in touch with you, find out more about you as an online coach, or maybe take up one of your courses, what do they need to do?
So if you find me on Instagram at Iestyn, and this is where I should have chosen. I should have gone away from my real name.
I can help you with all the links at the bottom there. So
yeah, that'd be great. If you can put all those up, that'd be great. So go on my Instagram. On my bio page is my link tree. So on there it'll say new prospective clients. There's a simple, quick form, take about 5 minutes to fill out with just some basic details about yourself. I will then send you an email. I can talk you through the different options with coaching. So the main two things that I do is either like a pay monthly service where we have weekly or twice weekly check-ins and interactions, and I'm available sort of not 24/7. Every day I'm available. I'm not going to be picking up my phone at 2 a.m. to answer your questions on how much rice you should be having, but I'll be available a lot of the day. Or I run the 12-week sort of transformation plans, as I call them, which is you still get the personalized diet, personalized training plan, access to me. We don't check in as regularly, but what I do is check in regularly throughout that process. It's not weekly, it's set times.
Yeah.
Make any adjustments to diet, training plan, and everything like that. And I've had some great success on both fronts. Anyone that's, that's unsure, maybe start off with looking at a 12-week plan so you can get an understanding. But a lot of people have moved on from the 12-week plans to the pay monthly sort of coaching plans that involve that weekly contact and stuff like that, because they realize the benefit from it. I've got clients working in WWE, clients working in AEW, all the major wrestling promotions up and down the country and stuff like that. I'd love to work with more people. I'd love to help everyone achieve their goal in fitness, and I've had some fantastic transformations. Gabe's not the only one. Andy Wild, who has worked really hard over the last year or so. Jason Reed up in ICW. Obviously I'm working with Tommy End, Alistair Black, Malachi Black, however you know him. I've been lucky enough that the guys who are really high profile in the wrestling business have come to myself, and I just try and do my best with everyone. There's no difference whether you're got 1 million Instagram followers or 15. I'm here to help people and to help people achieve what they want to achieve, and it's something I've got a real passion for. I try and work around any problems that people come up with, whether it's diet problems, training problems, whatever it is. I'm there to help people. That's what I really enjoy.
Absolutely. And Iestyn, as you mentioned, you got your link tree in your Instagram bio, and you can find Iestyn at Iestyn_Rees on Instagram. So go and check him out and get in touch if you're interested in one of his training plans.
I'm on Twitter as well. If you want to drop me a DM on Twitter, even if it's a DM on Instagram, if you've just got a quick question, can you help me? What's this? What's it all about? I'm available. Honestly, I love helping people, and it's something I've got a real passion for, and I'd happily work with anyone.
Absolutely. As we start to wind down this episode of Wrestling with Johners, then, yes, and I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you then. Who would you say, I mean, you've had an illustrious career, but who would you say are some of your favourite opponents? If you were to give me a top three of opponents that you enjoy being in the ring with or have had some tremendous matches with, could you reel off a list of three?
Oh, I could do 10, 20, 30. I'll have to say Chris Masters. I mean, I got a lot of abuse, and I used to get called a Poundland Chris Masters or an SHIT Chris Masters. I'm not going to swear because my mum will watch this and stuff like that. But I've been lucky enough, I watched Chris on TV, when I was coming up early in the business, and I always loved his look and loved his presentation. We've gone on to become friends. I've wrestled him, on numerous occasions, and I think that, just a great mix of two big guys that wrestle a similar style. Obviously, another career highlight was the matches against Drew in Pro Wrestling Elite and stuff like that. Other things is a lot of the stuff with wrestling. I've been lucky enough to do so many cool things. The big shows with ICW, wrestling top talent, wrestling the best British wrestlers in front of thousands and thousands of people. The type of fans I never envisioned when I started wrestling in front of 100 people, that I get to wrestle in front of nearly 7,000 people at a full-on proper arena. It's just the WWE was always a pipe dream when I started. People didn't get signed from Britain when I started, and so to wrestle in an arena, to do the stuff with WWE, to do the World of Sport stuff, all of that stuff is just stuff that I never even envisioned. It's been fantastic. I've got to travel all over Europe. One of my highlights is going out to Austria. I've been out to Austria every year for about the last 7, maybe 8 years or so, excluding the pandemic. I go mainly in Vienna. They've got 2 great venues there. One that they tend to run in November, which is a big 700-seater indoor arena. But the best one is what's called Prater Catchen. So catch wrestling, Catchen is German for wrestling, and Prater is the oldest amusement park in the world. It's an area in Vienna by a big park, and it's not like an Alton Towers, which is just owned by Alton Towers or Two Swords or whatever it is. Every individual ride in the park is owned by a family or a business, so they're all independent. But it's this huge, great amusement park, and they put on a 2-day, a 2-night wrestling show in the summer. So I'll be going back out there in July to work that show, and that's always a highlight. I love wrestling in front of the Austrian fans. It's to say that kayfabe is alive and well in Austria is definitely a positive. They really get into it. They're and they have a big parade of all the wrestlers before the shows, and it's just a great environment. If you ever get the chance to go out there, if any wrestling fans get the chance to go out there, Vienna's a lovely city to be around in the summer or in the winter. But the Austrian wrestling, is fantastic, and they bring in big names. Tajiri was on the show 2 years ago and stuff like that. Who else? Tristan Archer. Names from all over Europe, guys from all over the world. Lloyd Ananoe, which is part of the famous Samoan dynasty and stuff like that. So of course they really do, and I believe that Tajiri is going to be back there in this July, I believe. I think I'm correct in saying that. So they really do, put on a great show, and it is a fantastic experience.
I didn't realise Austria had much of a wrestling scene, but they
like the big guys out there.
Absolutely,
there's not many guys under 100 kg. I'll say that they like big guys out in Austria.
Absolutely. And Pro Wrestling Malta, you're going to be heading over to Malta on the 7th, their 7th anniversary show. That's coming up soon. Is that about June?
Yeah, so it's going to be quite a heavy British contingent going out there. I think that it's great that they're bringing out so many guys for the show. It does also go alongside, and he won't mind me saying this, Joel Redman Stag Do. He's also working on the show. So it's a lot of my mates. We're getting to travel abroad with a lot of my mates for the show. And I'm actually going to be wrestling Gianni Valletta on that show as well, I believe, unless there's a change to the card. So it'll give me a taste of what I'm going to expect in Cheltenham, in my hometown, as well. So yeah, it's going to be a great show. Obviously, it's when you get to travel abroad, you're always super lucky that promoters are willing to bring you out to different parts of Europe and different parts of the world, to get along with a good number of my mates as well. Not that we'll be drinking before the show, but I'm sure there'll be a few beers sunk after the show and stuff like that. Maybe a night out, who knows? But yeah, no, really looking forward to it. They've got a great venue there. They've brought over lots of guys individually from Britain before. I know that Zach Zodiac, Zach Knight had just been out there previously and stuff like that. So, really looking forward to it, and hopefully it won't be the last trip out there as well.
Absolutely. And as we got scrolling along the bottom of the screen, we've got your social handles. So at Facebook, you can reach Iestyn at Iestyn Rees Official. Instagram is Iestyn_Rees, and the same for Twitter, Iestyn_Rees. But Iestyn Rees, it's been amazing speaking to you. Before we go, is there anything you want to plug? Any merch? Anything you want us to go out and kind of check out before we say goodbye?
I haven't got that much merch. I mean, all my money's tied up in paying for my kids and my stepkids and stuff like that. So I don't produce that much merch, and it always just ended up in a box on the floor. So yeah, when I'm at shows, I've always got pictures with me, but I'm more than happy to sign anything. If a fan catches me, I'll happily take pictures with them and whatnot. I just love entertaining the fans when whether they're booing me, cheering me, or whatever, everything like that. Honestly, as we talked about earlier, the coaching is something I really want to sort of hammer home and stuff like that. I'm keen to work with as many people as possible. And people might think, oh, but how can you work with so many? My system's set up. I've got an online system where everyone's stuff is collated independently on there. I bring check-ins in on every single day, so I'm not overloaded. So I've got plenty of time to go back and forth with everyone that I'm working with. So if anyone, and like I said, you could be, never gone in the gym in your life before, super high level athlete, anything in between. I think that there's something that I can do for you if you're looking to improve your health and your fitness, and go from there. So yeah, drop me a DM, drop me a message. And then I can get in contact with you, and hopefully help you achieve some of your goals and go from there, basically.
100%. But before we say goodbye, I just want to announce an exclusive, special bonus episode of Wrestling with Johners. It's going to be dropping tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. UK time. Yesterday, I recorded an exclusive interview with the She-Wolves. So Molly Spartan there and Casey Owens ahead of Sirens Fury, TNT Extremes, all women's show taking place on Thursday the 28th from the Fusion nightclub in Liverpool. And it's the match for the inaugural TNT Women's Tag Team Championships against the Liver Birds there, Angel Hayes and Lizzie Evo. So check out my exclusive interview with Molly and Casey, the She-Wolves, that drops on Saturday the 23rd at 9 p.m. UK time. And then on Monday, my next live interview will be with the current OTT World Champion, the current TNT Ultra X Champion, Mark Haskins. What this guy hasn't done in the wrestling business isn't worth talking about. He's wrestled all over the States for the likes of Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, of course, all over the UK. One of the most successful, one of the best pro wrestlers in the business, and a friend of Iestyn's, of course. And Mark will be an exclusive guest of mine live on the Wrestling with Johners podcast, 8 p.m. this coming Monday, the 25th. So not bad, really.
Yeah, sounds like you've got some fantastic interviews and stuff coming up, Jonas.
100%. But Iestyn Rees, you've been a fantastic guest. It's been wonderful speaking to you and hearing about all your stories and your time in the wrestling business and everything else. And please go and check Iestyn's link tree, which is part of the bio of your Instagram page, isn't it? Iestyn_Rees on Instagram to check out all about his online training. You've got the registration form there as well. But Iestyn Rees, thank you very much for being on the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully people have enjoyed the episode, and hopefully we'll get to do it again one day, and I can tell some more stories and stuff like that.
100%. And see you tomorrow at Immortal Wrestling, where you can be part of that championship match.
New British champion by the end of the night. That's the plan.
100%. That is the plan. Iestyn Rees, thank you very much.